infrastructure to continue. That's what we lost when there was a 2-week furlough. And it's keeping our infrastructure from deteriorating. Not what we deserve. You don't always get what you deserve, and we've got to fight to make sure the American people get just that.
Time's expired. The gentleman from West Virginia reserves. Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
I'd like to yield to one of our vice chairs, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Hanna, 1 3/4 minutes.
Gentleman's recognized for 1 3/4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chairman Mica. I am pleased to speak in favor of this bipartisan, bicameral deal to extend the 2-year important transportation programs at current funding levels. The 4-month extension of the FAA programs will allow us to iron out the final details of a long-term reauthorization. As a pilot myself, I know firsthand the benefits and efficiencies this will bring to our airports and airways, as well as our out-of-date control system. I am particularly pleased to be extending the Highways and Transit program for 6 months in order that we can ensure we have adequate time to pass the Chairman and the Committee's long-term plan. New York and the country need long-term certainty and a steady stream of funding. We have spent too much time focusing on so-called shovel-ready projects with little or no lasting economic or employment benefits. I look forward to working over the next 6 months to pass a long-term reauthorization that will empower states to take on major projects, including bridge replacements, highway interchange improvements, and investments in our nation's transit systems, as well as those in upstate New York. These are the types of projects that have the potential to provide jobs for years to come and to grow our economy in the long term. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Florida reserves. The gentleman from West Virginia is recognized.
May I have a time check, please, Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman from West Virginia has 9 minutes remaining. The gentleman from Florida has 1 1/4 minutes remaining.
I'm sorry, how much do I have?
9 minutes.
9?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay. I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer.
Gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 2 minutes.
I appreciate the gentleman's courtesy. I listened to my friend from Pennsylvania who is concerned about the Recovery Act. Well, a number of us voted against it because it was too heavily weighted for tax cuts in an attempt to get Republicans to participate. And all of them voted no. If you would have worked with us, we could have increased the amount of money devoted to infrastructure. But this same myopia that we see when you refuse to accept a broad bipartisan support for FAA in the Senate. What was it? It passed 89-7 or something like that? And we can't work with them to increase the investment for aviation. It's sad. All you have to do is talk to the contractors in your district to find out that the Recovery Act kept them afloat. Contractor after contractor knows that it made a difference, but it's time for us to stop dancing around. We ought to approve the approach in a bipartisan way with the Senate, and we ought to step up and invest more in surface transportation, not less. We will find that there is broad agreement with the business community, the U.S. Chamber, organized labor, environmental groups, local government. This is the way that we will put more Americans to work. You seem to acknowledge it, but you're not working with us in the spirit of Chairman Bud Shuster or Chairman Don Young, who were willing to stand up and be counted in the need for more resources. We're facing a 34% reduction with the bill that the Republicans are dealing with now in the appropriations process, and you're not going to be able to get a decent 6-year authorization when you're slashing investments where America is falling behind. I think we ought to take this very good, clean extension, use the 6 months to be able to build on a foundation of the original Ice-T, right-size it. I have 30 additional seconds.
I yield the gentleman additional 30 seconds.
Gentleman's recognized for 30 seconds.
Accept the recommendations of broad bipartisan commissions that we need to be spending more, deal with the deficit reduction the way that it happened with Ronald Reagan, with Bill Clinton, that includes more infrastructure investment, agree with the Senate approach. We'll be able to put millions of Americans to work and stop the partisan bickering that we don't need to do. It's not partisan in the Senate. It doesn't have to be partisan here.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from West Virginia reserves. Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Yield myself 15 seconds.
Gentleman's recognized for 15 seconds.
Just to set the record straight, I went to the Democrat side, the other side of the aisle, when we proposed the stimulus legislation, asked to double the amount for infrastructure. I think I got 14 or more votes from the other side of the aisle, but I had the motion to recommit. I offered it, and it was not accepted.
Gentleman from Florida reserves. The gentleman from West Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Hank Johnson.
Gentleman from Georgia is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member. I rise in strong support of this bill, which will keep people working, building our infrastructure. Failure to pass this bill would put politics first and mean unnecessary economic pain for millions of Americans. We've seen in the past that stop signs and guardrails have been put out. Traffic jams have been started, and now we want to blame the drivers of the car for the traffic jam that the other side commenced. It doesn't make any sense. But let's go ahead and pass this bill today. I recommend or I commend my brethren on the other side of the aisle for putting it forward. Clean bill. In Georgia, the highway bill provides more than $97 million a month for infrastructure jobs, employing more than 22,500 Georgians. I urge my colleagues to support this bill so we can move past this stalemate and pass a long-term bill. Thank you, and I yield back.
Time has expired. The gentleman from West Virginia reserves. Gentleman from Florida is recognized. Gentleman from Florida reserves. Gentleman from West Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlelady from New York, Ms. Maloney.
Gentlelady from New York is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding and thank the ranking member and chairman for their leadership on this important bill, the Surface and Air Transportation Program Extension Act. This act includes a clean 6-month extension of our nation's critical highway and transit programs. The funding provided to this extension to state departments of transportation and local transit agencies will keep Americans working and our economy moving while Congress acts to reauthorize these critically important programs. This extension is necessary to our nation's economic health and getting Americans back to work. I applaud the bipartisan work of our Chamber's leadership in bringing this to the floor. However, I believe that once the extension is passed, we should focus on bringing true high-speed rail to the Northeast Corridor. As a representative of the citizens of the great city of New York, I understand the significant economic and transportation value of having high-speed rail option that would serve the Northeast mega region. Such an initiative would not only create high-paying construction jobs in the near term, but would spur economic development and growth throughout the region in the long term. The Northeast region contains 20% of the nation's population in just 2% of the land area. This density is evidenced by the fact that 70% of all chronically delayed flights originate in the New York area airspace, while 60% of the Northeast region's road miles are considered heavily congested. At a time when highway and air modes are nearing capacity levels and jobs are at a premium, high-speed rail for the Northeast Corridor must be a serious consideration of this Congress. It would help our economic development and move our country forward in the 21st century, competing in the global markets. I yield back. Thank you.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from West Virginia reserves. Gentleman from Florida continues to reserve. Gentleman from West Virginia is recognized.
Gentleman from Florida had the right to close, Mr. Speaker.
That's correct. Gentleman.
Okay, then I'm prepared to yield to our final speaker, the gentlelady from Florida, the ranking member on our subcommittee on railroads. I yield to Ms. Corrine Brown, our final time as our cleanup speaker.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, how much time do I have?
Gentlelady is recognized for 3.5 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Micah. I want to thank Mr. Ray Hall for bringing this clean FAA bill to the floor, this extension. Our nation needs and deserves a well-funded multimodal transportation system. Business leaders, construction companies, labor groups, and rider advocates all agree that transportation infrastructure is critical to putting people back to work and improving our crumbling transportation system. Transportation and Infrastructure Fund is absolutely critical to the nation and, if properly funded, serve as a tremendous economic boost and job creator. The fact is that the Department of Transportation statistics show that for every $1 billion invested in transportation, we generate 44,000 jobs and $6.2 billion in economic activity. Indeed, our nation's long-term prosperity requires that we invest in our infrastructure. For example, China is currently spending 9% of their GDP on infrastructure, about $300 billion, while we're spending less than 2%. Clearly, this lack of investment has led to a crumbling infrastructure. The American Society of Civic Engineers, in the 2009 report Card for America Infrastructure, gave the United States a grade of a D. It's time for this Congress and our committee to get serious about putting people back to work. There is no better way to do this than funding transportation at a level that is truly improving our system. We can no longer afford the status quo if we want to compete internationally with countries who understand the importance of infrastructure. Let's pass this bill. Let's finish a long-term FAA and surface reauthorization bill. As the governor of Florida says, let's get to work, let's put people to work. I want to insert in the record an article that was in the Orlando Sentinel yesterday, Hank Fishkind. This is recovered, and it's going to take time, the economists say, but he points out the importance of the infrastructure and putting people to work. With that, Mr. Chairman, once again, I want to thank Mr. Mica and Mr. Ray Hall and the committee and the staff, and let's get to work and let's put the American people back to work. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. Without objection, the gentlelady's request is granted. Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Has all time been yielded from the other side?
All times yielded back from the gentleman from West Virginia.
And I'll close. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and we do need to move forward. This isn't the time to bicker. This is the time to put people to work. This is the time to pass long-term reauthorization. I said earlier, this cannot be another Band-Aid. We've had 21 extensions. This is the 8th transportation bill extension. And my dad used to say, you know, John, it's not how much you have, it's also how you spend it. We have to learn lessons. As of September 1st, 2011, just a few days ago, 35% of the limited amount of transportation stimulus dollars for infrastructure still remained in Washington. So it's not just spending people's money, it's spending it wisely. The other thing, too, is the money we spent, 82% of it went for short-term employment. Those jobs have come and gone, little repaving, little jobs here. We need long-term commitment. So I'm committed to do whatever it takes to pass a 6-year transportation bill and a 4-year FAA authorization. The people of this country deserve no less than having responsible action by this Congress to move these important infrastructure and job-creating programs forward, and we're going to do it. Mark my word. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 2887? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the Chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to House Resolution 392 and Rule 18, the Chair declares the House in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of H.R. 2218. Will the gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Yoder, kindly take the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of H.R. 2218, which the clerk will report by title.
A bill to amend the charter school program under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965.
When the Committee of the Whole House rose on Thursday, September 8, 2011, a request for a recorded vote on Amendment Number 8, printed in Part A of House Report 11-12-200 by the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. King, had been postponed. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume on those amendments printed in Part A of House Report 112-200, on which further proceedings were postponed in the following order. Amendment Number 7 by Mr. Holt of New Jersey. Amendment Number 8 by Mr. King of Iowa. The Chair will reduce to 2 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote after the first vote in the series. The unfinished business is a request for recorded vote on Amendment Number 7, printed in Part A of House Report 112-200 by the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Holt, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the ayes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment Number 7, printed in Part A of House Report Number 112-200, offered by Mr. Holt of New Jersey.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
Well, the U.S. House made short work of the 22nd extension of transportation programs, that according to the chairman of the Transportation Committee, John Mica. The bill they just passed by a voice vote under suspension of the rules combines a 4-month reauthorization of the FAA and a 6-month transportation reauthorization. So that passes, and the House moves on to finish up work on a bill that they debated last week, expanding charter schools in the U.S. 2 amendment votes first off. This first one is by, this amendment vote would encourage, this is by Rush Holt of New Jersey, would encourage the Secretary of Education to consider schools that are built with green construction practices in the awarding of those charter school grants. This first vote is 15 minutes. And while this vote continues, we're going to take you to just a portion of the first official hearing of the Joint Reduction Committee. They met last week for an organizational meeting, but today they started off their work by hearing from Doug Elmendorf, the director of the Congressional Budget Office. He testified in front of the committee today for some 2.5 hours or so. He said that the spiraling interest payments could swamp the government's ability to pay for its operations and could spark a financial crisis if nothing is done. We're going to show you all of that hearing later in our program schedule. I want to show you a bit of it, though, from earlier today where he talked about deficit predictions, tax cuts, and short-term versus long-term government spending. This portion is just about 15 minutes.
Many developments could cause economic outcomes to differ substantially in one direction or the other from those we currently anticipate. If the recovery continues as expected, and if tax and spending policies unfold as specified in current law, deficits will drop markedly as a share of GDP over the next few years. Under CBO's baseline projections, shown by the dark blue portion of the bars in the figure, deficits fall to about 6% of GDP in 2012, about 3% in 2013, and smaller amounts for the rest of the decade. In that scenario, deficits over the decade total about $3.5 trillion. But as a number of you have said, those baseline projections understate the budgetary challenges, because changes in policy that will take effect under current law will produce a federal tax system and spending for some federal programs that differ sharply from the policies that many people have become accustomed to. Specifically, CBO's baseline projections include the following policies specified in current law. First, certain provisions of the 2010 Tax Act, including extensions of lower rates and expanded credits and deductions enacted in 2001, 2003, and 2009, all expire at the end of next year. Second, the 2-year extension of provisions designed to limit the reach of the alternative minimum tax, the extensions of emergency unemployment compensation, and the one-year reduction in the payroll tax all expire at the end of this year. Third, sharp reductions in Medicare's payment rates for physician services take effect at the end of this year. Fourth, funding for discretionary spending declines over time in real terms in accordance with the caps established under the Budget Control Act. And fifth, additional deficit reduction of more than $1 trillion will be implemented as required under the Act. Changing provisions of current law so as to maintain major policies that are in effect now would produce markedly different budget outcomes. For example, and shown by the full bars in the figure, if most of the provisions of the 2010 Tax Act were extended, if AMT was indexed for inflation, and if Medicare's payment rates for physician services were held constant, then deficits over the coming decade would total $8.5 trillion rather than the $3.5 trillion in the current law baseline. By 2021, debt held by the public would reach 82% of GDP, higher than in any year since 1948. Yesterday, CBO released an analysis of the enforcement procedures of the Budget Control Act. As shown in the slide, we estimate that if no legislation originating from this committee is enacted, the following would occur over the next decade. Reductions in the caps on discretionary appropriations for defense would cut outlays by about $450 billion. Reductions in the caps on discretionary appropriations for non-defense purposes would cut outlays by about $300 billion. And reductions in mandatory spending would yield net savings of about $140 billion. The total reduction deficits would be about $1.1 trillion. The estimated reductions in mandatory spending are comparatively small because the law exempts a significant portion of such spending from the enforcement procedures. As a result, about 70% of the total savings would come from lower discretionary spending. Cuts in defense and non-defense spending of that magnitude would probably lead to reductions in the number of military and civilian employees and in the scale and scope of federal programs. Beyond the coming decade, as you know, the fiscal outlook worsens as the aging of the population and rising costs for health care put significant and increasing pressure on the budget under current law. When CBO issued its most recent long-term outlook in June, debt held by the public was projected to reach 84% of GDP in 2035 under current law, and about 190% of GDP under policies that more closely resemble current policies. Although new long-term projections would differ because we would incorporate the latest 10-year projections, the amount of federal borrowing that would be necessary under current policies would be clearly unsustainable. In sum, the federal budget is quickly heading into territory that is unfamiliar to the United States and to most other developed countries as well. As this committee considers its charge to recommend policies that would reduce future budget deficits, its key choices fall into three broad categories listed in the slide. How much deficit reduction should be accomplished? How quickly should deficit reduction be implemented? What form should deficit reduction take? Let me take up these questions briefly in turn. First, regarding the amount of deficit reduction, there is no commonly agreed upon level of federal debt that is sustainable or optimal. Under CBO's current law baseline, debt held by the public is projected to fall from 67% of GDP this year to 61% in 2021. However, stabilizing the debt at that level would still leave it larger than in any year between 1953 and 2009. Lawmakers might determine that debt should be reduced to amounts lower than those shown in CBO's baseline and closer to those we've experienced in the past. That would reduce the burden of debt on the economy, relieve some of the long-term pressures on the budget, diminish the risk of a fiscal crisis, and enhance the government's flexibility to respond to unanticipated developments. Of course, it would also require larger amounts of deficit reduction. Furthermore, lawmakers might decide that some of the current policies scheduled to expire under current law should be continued. In that case, achieving a particular level of debt could require much larger amounts of deficit reduction from other policies. For example, if most of the provisions in the 2010 Tax Act were extended, the AMT was indexed for inflation, and Medicare's payment rates for physicians were held constant, then reducing debt in 2021 to to the 61% of GDP projected under current law would require other changes in policies to reduce deficits over the next 10 years by a total of $6.2 trillion, rather than the $1.2 trillion needed from this committee to avoid automatic budget cuts. In 2021 alone, the gap between federal revenues and spending, if those policies were continued and no other budgetary changes were made, are shown by the right pair of bars in the figure, is projected to be 4.7% of GDP. Putting debt on a downward trajectory relative to GDP in that year would require a much smaller deficit. Reaching that objective, declining debt relative to GDP, from that starting point, would require a reduction in the deficit of about 2.5% of GDP, or $600 billion in that year alone. Your second set of choices involves the timing of deficit reduction, which involves difficult trade-offs summarized in a slide. On one hand, cutting spending or increasing taxes slowly would lead to a greater accumulation of government debt and might raise doubts about whether the longer-term deficit reductions would ultimately take effect. On the other hand, implementing spending cuts or tax increases abruptly would give families, businesses, and state and local governments a little time to plan and adjust. In addition, and particularly important given the current state of the economy, immediate spending cuts or tax increases would represent an added drag on the weak economic expansion. However, credible steps to narrow budget deficits over the longer term would support output and employment in the next few years by holding down interest rates and reducing uncertainty, thereby enhancing confidence by businesses and consumers. Therefore, the near-term economic effects of deficit reduction would depend on the balance between changes in spending and taxes that take effect quickly and those that take effect slowly. As shown in this next slide, credible policy changes that would substantially reduce deficits later in the coming decade and beyond, without immediate spending cuts or tax increases, would both support the economic expansion in the next few years and strengthen the economy over the longer term. Moreover, there is no inherent contradiction between using fiscal policy to support the economy today, while the unemployment rate is high and many factories and offices are underused, and imposing fiscal restraint several years from now, when output and employment will probably be close to their potential. If policymakers wanted to achieve both a short-term economic boost and longer-term fiscal sustainability, the combination of policies that would be most effective, according to our analysis, would be changes in taxes and spending that would widen the deficit today but narrow it later in the decade. Such an approach would work best if the future policy changes were sufficiently specific, enacted into law, and widely supported so that observers believe that the future restraint would truly take effect. Your third set of choices involves the composition of deficit reduction. Federal spending and revenues affect the total amount and types of output that are produced, the distribution of that output among various segments of society, and people's well-being in a variety of ways. In considering the challenge of putting fiscal policy on a sustainable path, many observers have wondered whether it is possible to return to previous policies regarding federal spending and revenues. Unfortunately, the past combination of policies cannot be repeated when it comes to the federal budget. The aging of the population and rising costs for health care have changed the backdrop for budget decisions in a fundamental way. Under current law, spending on Social Security, Medicare, and other major health care programs, the darkest line in the figure, is projected to reach about 12% of GDP in 2021, compared with an average of about 7% during the past 40 years. It's an increase worth 5% of GDP. Most of that spending goes to benefits for people over age 65, with smaller shares for blind and disabled people and for non-elderly able-bodied people. In stark contrast, under current law, all spending apart from Social Security and the major health care programs and interest payments on the debt is projected to decline noticeably as a share of the economy. That broad collection of programs includes defense, the largest single piece, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps, unemployment compensation, veterans benefits, federal civilian and military retirement benefits, transportation, health research, education and training, and other programs. That whole collection of programs has incurred spending averaging 11.5% of GDP during the past 40 years. With expected improvement in the economy and the new caps on discretionary spending, it falls in our projection by 2021 to less than 8% of GDP, the lowest share in more than 40 years, under current law and in our baseline projections. Putting those pieces together and including interest payments, between 1971 and 2010, as shown by the left pair of bars in the figure, federal spending averaged about 21% of GDP. But under current law for 2021, as shown by the right pair of bars, CBO projects it to grow to about 23% of GDP. Alternatively, if the laws governing Social Security and the major health care programs were unchanged, and all other programs were operated in line with their average relationship to the size of the economy during the past 40 years, federal spending would be much higher in 2021, around 28% of GDP. That amount exceeds the 40-year average for revenues as a share of GDP by about 10 percentage points. In conclusion, given the aging of the population and rising costs for health care, attaining a sustainable federal budget will require the United States to deviate from the policies of the past 40 years in at least one of the following ways. Raise federal revenues significantly above their average share of GDP, make major changes in the sorts of benefits provided for Americans when they become older, or substantially reduce the role of the rest of the federal government relative to the size of the economy. My colleagues and I at CBO stand ready to provide analysis and information that can help you in making these important choices. Thank you. I'm happy to take your questions.
CBO Director Doug Elmendorf, just part of his 2.5 hours of testimony in front of the Joint Deficit Reduction Committee. All of that hearing later in our program schedule, and you can find it online in the video library at cspan.org. There is also more at cspan.org/deficit, links to stories about today's hearing, links to some of the posts, the tweets from members, and Facebook postings as well. All of that, cspan.org/deficit. Here on the House floor, they are voting on one of two amendments that will get votes, roll call votes, on the charter schools bill. This is a bill they debated last week, and this is an amendment by Rush Holt of New Jersey, which encourages the Secretary of Education, when awarding charter school grants, to give priority to states that encourage green school building practices. One more amendment vote will follow this from Steve King of Iowa, and then we expect a motion to recommit and final passage as well. Also today, the House voice voted the extension, the 22nd extension of the transportation bill. This is a 4-month reauthorization of the Federal Aviation Administration, a 6-month reauthorization of surface transportation programs. President Obama speaking this afternoon, talking about his jobs plan, which he detailed to Congress yesterday, laid out in that speech last week, and spoke about it yesterday in the Rose Garden. He is in Columbus, Ohio today. He's touring Fort Hays Academic High School. Will speak there as well, and talking about his $447 billion jobs plan. That's coming up at 2:15 Eastern, and you can catch that live at cspan.org. The President may also talk about the news today from the Census Bureau, which reported that nearly 1 in 6 Americans are living in poverty, saying the poverty rate climbed to more than 15% last year. That's 46.2 million people. The Associated Press writes those figures from the Census Bureau, says that Mississippi has the highest rate of poverty, followed by Louisiana, the District of Columbia, Georgia, New Mexico, and Arizona. New Hampshire had the lowest poverty rate at less than 7%. The House will finish up this work today. These votes this afternoon should be all of the legislative work for the House this afternoon, all of the recorded votes at least. Now, outside of Washington, there's a race going on, special election going on in New York. 2 candidates running for the House seat vacated by Anthony Weiner are making their final appeals to voters as the special election in that district in New York City is happening, with Democrat David Weprin and also the Republican Bob Turner. The Associated Press says a recent poll showed the Republican had a slight lead, and we will find out later today about that, and also the special election happening in Nevada. You're watching live House coverage on C-SPAN. As a matter of fact, from this morning's Washington Journal, we got some preview on today's special elections.
There's a lot going on, a lot of action on Capitol Hill and elsewhere, including elections, special elections around the country. Emily Goodwin is Associate Editor of The Hill. Will join us for a moment or two here to talk about two particular races, Emily. New York's 9th District, this Anthony Weiner seat. Let's start there. Who are the candidates and what's likely to happen?
Well, thanks for having me. The candidates are Republican candidate Bob Turner and Democratic candidate David Weprin. This has long been a Democratic seat. Democrats have held it since it was in existence, but two polls out in the past week have shown that Republican candidate Bob Turner has a really strong chance of taking this seat. So both parties have come into the district spending hard, bringing out their big names to battle it out.
How about implications nationally for this particular race?
There's a lot of national implications for this race. Polls have shown President Obama's approval rating in the district is about 37%. So a lot of people are seeing this as a referendum on his presidency and showing voters' unhappiness with the economic situation in the country. And there's been some worries about how this will translate into the 2012 congressional elections and Obama's ability to be a drag on the ticket.
Has former Congressman Weiner himself been active and has had any effect in this race?
No, he hasn't actually. Bill Clinton and Andrew Cuomo have come out for the Democratic candidate. The district also has a heavy makeup of Orthodox Jews, so Senator Joseph Lieberman has come out for the Democratic candidates. On the Republican side, former Mayor Ed Koch actually crossed lines to endorse the Republican candidate, and he cited President Obama's Middle East policy. So that's been a big issue there, too.
Let's go out to Nevada, the 2nd District there. It's a seat left open by Dean Heller, his Senate appointment. Who are the candidates there, and what's the backstory?
On the Republican side, we have Markham Modi, and on the Democratic side, we have State Treasurer Kate Marshall. This has been a Republican seat, and they were kind of expected to hang on to it. The Democrats actually haven't even spent any money in this race, which has been kind of a sore point with the Democratic candidate. And this race also has early voting, and we don't know the results, but we do know who voted. We know that 53% of the early voters were registered Republicans and 34% were registered Democrats. So let's give you a little bit of indication of what's going on out there.
Emily Goodwin, Associate Editor for The Hill. Thanks a lot for the update. We'll track the results tomorrow morning, perhaps.
Thank you.
That conversation from this morning's Washington Journal. The Journal is live every day at 7 a.m. Eastern. The House is working its way through a couple of amendments to the Charter Schools Bill, a bill that expands charter school programs in the U.S., and this is an amendment by Rush Holt of New Jersey, which encourages the Education Secretary to consider and give priority to school systems that use green practices, green construction practices. Give that consideration in the grant process. One more amendment vote after this. We expect a motion to recommit and final passage coming up, and that will do it for roll call votes in the U.S. House we expect this afternoon. Over in the Senate, meanwhile, the Senate has been continued work on a bill proposing to renew import restrictions against Burma. Last night they failed to move that bill forward. Majority Leader Reid says he plans to amend that Burma bill by adding about $7 billion in spending for FEMA to use in responding to the recent natural disasters, including Hurricane Irene.
On this vote, the yeas are 190 and the nays are 218.
Mr. Bilirakis. Mr. Bilirakis votes no. Ms. DeLauro. Ms. DeLauro votes aye.
On this vote, the yeas are 195 and the nays are 220, and the amendment is not adopted. The unfinished business is the request for recorded vote on Amendment Number 8, printed in Part A of House Report 112-200 by the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. King, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment Number 8, printed in Part A of House Report Number 112-200, offered by Mr. King of Iowa.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 2-minute vote.
And this will be the last amendment vote for this charter school bill. This amendment by Steve King of Iowa would amend the definition of high-quality charter schools in the bill by removing the requirement that schools show adequate yearly progress in the achievement of certain subgroups of students. Those subgroups are economically disadvantaged students, students from major racial and ethnic groups, students with disabilities, and students with limited English proficiency. This is a 2-minute vote, and we expect a motion to recommit vote and final passage next. The House did a short while ago agree to voice vote an extension, the 22nd extension of transportation programs. Peter Kasperwitz, writing on the action in the Floor Action blog in the Hill, says that some extension of FAA and highway taxes is needed this month. FAA funding expires this Friday but is extended through January under the bill. Funding for federal highway programs expires at the end of September but would be extended through March.
ayes are 43, the nays 374. The amendment is not adopted. The question is on the committee amendment in the nature of a substitute as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Accordingly, under the rules of the committee, rises.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union has had under consideration H.R. 2218, and pursuant to House Resolution 392, I report the bill back to the House with an amendment adopted in Committee of the Whole.
Under the rule, the previous question is ordered. Is a separate vote demanded on any amendment to the amendment reported by the Committee of the Whole? If not, the question is on adoption of the committee amendment in the nature of the substitute. As amended, those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
The bill to amend the charter school program under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965.
House will be in order. Conversations off the floor. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. House will be in order. Please take your conversations off the floor. Be in order. Members, please clear the aisle. Please vacate the well. For what purpose does a gentlewoman from Hawaii seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
Is the gentlewoman opposed to the bill?
I am opposed to it in its current form.
The gentlewoman qualifies. The clerk will report the motion.
Ms. Hanabusa of Hawaii moves to recommit the bill H.R. 2218 to the Committee on Education and the Workforce with instructions to report the same back to the House forthwith with the following amendment. Page 20 after line 15, insert the following. J. Background checks to protect students from sexual and violent predators. 1. Background checks. Each state entity that receives a grant under this section shall have in effect policies and procedures for charter schools receiving funds under the entity's program that A. Require that criminal background checks be conducted for school employees that include I. A search of the state criminal registry or repository in the state in which the school employee resides and each state in which such school employee previously resided.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that we dispense with the reading.
Is there objection?
I object, Mr. Speaker.
There is objection. Clerk will read.
2I. In search of a state-based child abuse and neglect registries and databases in the state in which the school employee resides and each state in which such school employee previously resided. 3I. A search of the National Crime Information Center of the Department of Justice. 4. A Federal Bureau of Investigation fingerprint check using the Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System. And 6. A search of the National Sex Offenders Registry established under Section 19 of the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act of 2006, 42 U.S.C. 169-19. B. Prohibit the employment of an individual for a position as a school employee if such individual I. refuses to consent to the criminal background check described in subparagraph A. 2I, makes a false
Mr.
statement
Speaker,
in
the House
connection
is
with
not in
such
order.
criminal background check. 3I, has been convicted of a felony consisting of 1, homicide, 2, child abuse or neglect, 3.
Clerk will suspend. The House will be in order. Clerk may continue.
3, a crime against children, including child pornography. 4, spousal abuse. 5, a crime involving rape or sexual assault. 6, kidnapping. 7, arson. Or 8, physical assault, battery, or a drug-related offense committed within the past 5 years. Or 7, has been convicted of any other crime that is a violent or sexual crime against a minor. C, require that a charter school that receives information from a criminal background check conducted under this subsection, that an individual who has applied for employment with such school as a school employee is a sexual predator, report to local law enforcement that such individual has so applied. D, require that the criminal background checks described in subparagraph A be periodically repeated. And E, provide for a timely process by which a school employee may appeal the results of a criminal background check conducted under this subsection to challenge the accuracy or completeness of the information produced by such background check and seek appropriate relief for any final employment decision based on materially inaccurate or incomplete information produced by such background check, but that does not permit the school employee to be employed as a school employee during such process. 2, definitions. In this subsection, A, school employee, the term school employee means I, an employee of or a person seeking employment with a charter school and who has a job duty that results in exposure to students. Or 2I, an employee of or a person seeking employment with a for-profit or non-profit entity or local public agency that has a contract or agreement to provide services with a charter school and whose job duty, 1, is to provide such services, and 2, results in exposure to students. B, sexual predator. The term sexual predator means a person 18 years of age or older who has been convicted of or pled guilty to a sexual offense against a minor.
Mr. Speaker.
What purpose is gentleman from Minnesota?
Mr. Speaker, I reserve all points of order against the motion.
Point of order is reserved. The gentleman from Hawaii is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let us be very clear that this is a final amendment to the bill, which will not kill the bill, and if adopted will still allow the bill to go to final passage. This is an attempt to make a bill better. Regardless of how we may feel about the underlying bill, we can all agree that nothing...
Gentlelady will suspend. Gentleman's correct. The House is not in order. Will the House please come to order? Gentleman from gentleman from Hawaii deserves to be recognized. House will come to order. Gentlelady from Hawaii may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, this is not an attempt to kill the bill. The bill will not be killed, and if this amendment is adopted, it will allow the bill to go forward to final passage. This just makes a statement that we should all be able to agree with, and that is that we must protect our children from sexual predators and abductors. What this amendment does is to say anyone who receives a grant in support of the high-quality charter schools requires that each state entity that receives a grant under this section shall require a criminal background check to be conducted of such school employees. It also prohibits the employment of any individual for a position in such school, whether it's a nonprofit that does contracts with the school itself, until the criminal background check is done, and if you refuse to do so, you cannot be employed. And if you're convicted of a felony, now these are important points that we're protecting them from. Homicide, child abuse or neglect, a crime against children, spousal abuse, sexual abuse, kidnapping, arson, physical assault or battery, drug-related offenses or crimes against a minor. This is what this bill requires. Now in 2010, the GAO said, we don't have any federal bills that protect our children. Here we are, we're going to allow for grants to be given to charter school. Why not just support this amendment, which in fact will make this a better bill? What it will do is it will say no one shall work with their children until such time that they have done a criminal background check. And the bill also permits that if you believe somehow you've been wrongfully accused, that you can appeal. But during the period of time of that appeal, we are also protecting the children because you're not going to be able to work with them until such time that your appeal is done. Think about this. This is a statement that we are saying we're going to make the schools better. We're going to make charter schools safe for children. How can we not support such a measure? And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I ask that the members here support this motion to recommit. And be very clear, this does not stop the bill. This is like a final amendment. Regardless of how it votes, if you vote for it, which I think we should all vote for it, it will go to final passage. This is not going to, in essence, kill the bill. It will let it go forward. So with that in mind, I can't imagine how anyone who sits in this chamber can't be in support of this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlelady from Hawaii yields back. For purposes, gentleman from Minnesota rise.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to withdraw my reservation on the point of order.
Reservation is
and
withdrawn.
Address the MTR.
Gentleman rise in opposition.
I do.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, we're all concerned about the safety of our students in schools, in all our schools. Ensuring our students are in a safe environment is a critical part of the duties of our teachers, principals, administrators, school authorities. But whether the students attend charter schools or traditional public schools, all of our students and parents deserve to know the schools are providing a safe environment for them. That's why this issue is best considered when we look at the full Elementary and Secondary Education Act later this fall, the law that governs all public schools. This motion would single out charter schools from the rest of the public schools, something we've worked very hard in a bipartisan way to avoid. Therefore, I urge my colleagues to vote against this motion, reject this motion to recommit, and support the underlying bill, and I yield back.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion to recommit. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed will say no. No. The noes have it, and the adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the Chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of passage.
H.R. 2218, the charter school bill, would authorize state grants over 6 years to expand charter schools throughout the U.S. Democrats are trying to change the bill. This is the motion to recommit. It gets a 15-minute vote, and final passage will follow this. Earlier, the House passed by a voice vote the transportation bill. Here's how CQ reports.